Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to this live stream. We're going to discuss the new Penpot API. By the way, welcome to everyone joining using our YouTube or PTube channels. We want to have everyone welcome, and I just want to start by thanking everyone that have been enjoying the latest release, 1.19 release. This was a silent release in the sense that we didn't make much noise, and yet we're seeing massive usage, both on-premise and on our private cloud. But I wanted to basically share with you that today, in this short overview of the API, we're going to see a bit of a community contribution, which I'm really pleased to see. We're going to know about an open source project, and we're going to, of course, know more about Penpot API. So let's start. So there is this thing called Penpot Fest. This is an excuse really to discuss Penpot API. What was Penpot Fest? Penpot Fest was a community event back in June. And for that, we actually asked an external team to build this website, website for the event. And it was okay. I mean, the event was impressive. The event was wonderful, and we're going to share the playlist of all the talks. It was really super energizing for everyone. But the website was not perfect. So using one of our hackathons, our week-long hackathons called Pi Weeks, in July actually, a colleague and I decided to build a festival/event website builder, and we called that EasyFest. Okay. So welcome EasyFest. EasyFest is basically the typical opinionated website builder, in this case using meant for festivals and events and conferences. So particularly I tend to be a member of many associations and clubs, and it's very easy for me to come up with this plan of building the website for that event. It is very tedious to do that with the current technology, and I want to have full control. So EasyFest was an idea that I had. These EasyFest, actually we're using Strapi for the headless CMS. So you basically use Strapi to manage all the content, and then the front end uses Svelte. So, raise your hand in the chat if you are familiar with these two amazing open source projects, Strapi and Svelte. But sorry, where am I? Penpot Fest, yeah. So we're going to use, let me see here. No, sorry, this. So we're going to use EasyFest to show you how the Penpot API works. So here you can see a local environment running. This is, it's familiar. I mean, if you've seen the Penpot Fest site, you can see that it has like a similar structure, but this is running locally. So you see here, localhost. I have code here, and I'm running this Svelte frontend. I decided to use the API from the easyfest.site, so I don't have to run the backend myself. But the frontend does pick all the content from the API, so that is fine. So the idea behind a project like EasyFest is that you should focus on content and then have a very easy time in changing like typography, styles, and colors. So what I'm going to do now is just very quickly show you how that is done with Penpot's API. So I'm going to execute this command, and you're going to see I mean, don't blink because you're going to see a lot of changes happening, colors, typography. You're going to see many changes. So I execute that, Svelte reloads, and bam. You see a lot of changes. That happened. There was a change in that color. There was a change in the typography, all these colors. There was kind of a new styles applied. So that was fast. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to basically reset that. Svelte again reloads, and I go back
Wow.
normal. Okay. What happened here? What is this Penpot export doing? Penpot export is a community contribution by Roberto from Red Addicts that basically takes colors and typographies from a Penpot file and outputs that in CSS, SCSS, or JSON. The JSON actually using design tokens draft standard from W3C. You can see here a configuration file. Okay. So, but where exactly Penpot exports is taking all this information from? It's taking it from here. It is taking it from a Penpot file that Anna, also from Red Radix, a community contribution, built using Penpot's assets. So you can see here the colors, the body, the typographies or body, title and title, all this. And what I did basically was import that into my Penpot workspace and just create a different style. I actually used something that was very useful from Anna, which was the tutorial on how to use it. So this is not mandatory if you're going to use EasyFest because you're thinking, oh, I actually run several conferences every year. I really want to use EasyFest. This is not something that you need to use, like the Penpot file with the design tokens that get exported. This is completely optional. But if you want to use it, then here you can see a wonderful tutorial by Anna. The design tokens file, and also a test for the web page, so you can see it like live how that works. So wonderful work. So as I said, I just imported that file, which you can find here in the repo. See, EasyFest design template.penpot, and I started changing stuff. I mean, don't judge me. Like this probably isn't looking great, but I wanted to make a point around how easy it is to connect this with Penpot's API. So I'll make a change so that a kind of slow-mo edition of the change. So here, like this welcome party. Okay. By the way, what you're seeing on Penpot is a mock-up. What you're seeing here is the real content, and we're not taking the design mock-up into this Svelte yet. So here you see a background color, welcome party. So if I come here, these are optional modules. Yeah, here you can see this. So yeah, this one is using primary light. So I should be able to go here, primary lights. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to change it to this color. I'm going to save. And now if I execute again, Penpot export, you're going to see the same changes as before, but now also the change in. I love it. Whoever is doing that, I love it. So okay, so I have a ton of notes here because it's yes. I mean, this is why we think this is really relevant, because ideally a designer or someone that is doing any design activity should be just focusing on the layout, the style, design tokens, and then whatever automatically gets translated into code to be part of the CI/CD or development work. This is really interesting. By the way, also you can see how Anna decided to go for flex layout. So if I go this, sorry about the digression, but I think it's really interesting to see that all this is using flex layout. She was in love with flex layout and she used it. We haven't actually applied the flex layout from this Penpot file to the EasyFest open source project, but in due time. So now, how can you start enjoying the API? Because this is definitely not like your first Hello World API process. Even if it's clear from this from Penpot export, you know what exactly the Roberto was using. In this case, he was using the get file API endpoint. So I'm going to go to the basics. These are the basics. Thanks to Penpot 1.19 release, there were many improvements, but one of them was actually the access tokens. So now, since July 20th, you have the possibility to create your access token. So you can go here to your profile, go to the your account, and then click on access token, and then generate any token. You give it a name, an expiry date, and bam, you have that, so that you can access the API. The API is here. There's the documentation for the API, and you have all sorts of actions that you might be interested in, like duplicate file, clone file, media object, update profile. I don't know, create team. Why not create team directly using the API, or leave team perhaps? Or you can do things around files, around management, fonts, media, profile, etc. Even comments. You could create comments or delete comments, update comments. All this thanks to the RPC API and the access tokens. So I'm going to do like the a very simple example of how this would work. So you would basically come to the documentation, and I'm going to use Insomnia. Probably you know about Insomnia. There are many GUIs for APIs, and this happens to be one. So in this case, I would just have to select the endpoint that I want to take, like this. Let's just go very here, get profile here. Okay, let me zoom out a bit. And like there is no necessary input. You just have to give, of course, authorization, the token. You get the token from here. And then we would suggest that you go for the application JSON and the accept. So everything is nice. So get profile basically is going to give us, if I click send, it's going to give us information about my user. Okay, you can see here my email, Penpot, language, all that stuff. Here you can see an ID. This is the ID. Okay, easy. Now, another one that you might be interested in is in the get teams. So again, if I come here and I expand, this is actually optional, but if you take the profile ID of someone, if you have the permissions, you could have access to the teams. In my case, of course, I have permission to access the teams for my profile ID. So again, I use that ID, same headers, I click send, and I have my teams. And I'm going to very quickly go here. So, all these teams here, basically you see all this here, okay? Let me see, many. I mean, it's once you start using Penpot, you will typically, start creating teams and like projects, and it's nonstop. So I have quite a few already. On production environments, I have other teams on other testing environments, of course. So so let's see, like EasyFest. This is the one I wanted to discuss. I have this ID here. So I could actually go to get team recent files, which is another example. Like here, get team recent files, and it's going to ask me profile ID and team ID. And what is this going to give me? It's basically, okay, what are the recent files, the files that we recently changed for that team, for that team, yeah. So headers look the same, but query now needs the team ID. So I already copy and pasted this to save you time. So I get send, and I have a time-based recent changes. Let's give it a go. So I go here to project, here EasyFest. Let's just create a draft. It's like I love you all, and yeah, I'll do this. So if I then execute again, send, you see here that information. Now you could argue that if I start combining this type of API calls with something like Penpot export and also webhooks, which we also have, you could start creating these pipes, this pipeline essentially between what is happening on Penpot on a particular project or a file, and what you want to see in a Git repository or a production environment, or perhaps not production, but like a testing environment. Why not? You get notified a file has changed or a comment was created with a particular information, then bam, that triggers something like perhaps something similar to Penpot export. Penpot export is quite agnostic. You can use it yourself, or you can create your own Penpot export based on your needs. So, so this is basically what I wanted to share with you. Like you can enjoy things like Penpot export, like a decent script that gets specifically typographies and colors from the design assets for any file. You just need to give some configuration. The configuration is as simple as I give you, so you can see the configuration, sorry. It's like this, right? You need to give the Penpot export the file ID, which is basically this, and your Penpot access tokens, which I generated and copied and pasted in my .env. That's it. Then Penpot export will make sure to go to your assets, find your colors and typographies, and export them in places like here. Let's just do a bit of this, okay? Things like this, okay? But why not start with the basics like this? I think what I think is very important about this is that the way we are building Penpot, of course, in terms of the UI and flex layout and everything that we are adding as features, this is all about bringing together designers and developers, or rather design activity and code activity, for sure. But we can do more than just use the built-in UI features. We can have the API as a next step to bringing even closer the design tool and the development tools. Okay, integrating them full duplex. It's not just only about reading stuff, but also having an impact. Why not have that? So we want you to think about, be inspired about this kind of features, and perhaps you will come up with something truly unique. And please do share your use cases, because we want to see more of this stuff coming out. So this is why we think the API is very important to keep bringing together design and code. And of course, we are going to use EasyFest for the events that we have. Why not? EasyFest is a very cool tool. Please use it for your own conference. It's all about content. It's about uh, changing styles and having your brand applied and just focusing on the content. We have agenda, everything. I'm actually going to do a quick demo, and then we go for the Q&A. The quick demo on EasyFest. This you were not expecting this, but basically you go here to the API, to the Strapi CMS, and I'll just be very, very quick. You have all these things to basically configure, add content, set up, all this. You basically do it very simply. And I'll just go and change this from an unpublished activity. You see all the options. It's super flexible, like the API. I publish this, and if I go now to the agenda, you can see this is applied. By the way, let me just go back to the original style, because the Calam font is a bit distracting. So here, see? And of course, I'm happy to say that it's completely responsive, and so yeah, the about, EasyFest, all this is responsive. This is a very nice open source project that was created during one of our hackathons. I mean, this was not the point about the this live stream, but I think we're super proud about all this. Penpot export as a community contribution, EasyVest as a nice example of how to put that into use, and of course the API. So yeah, I think this is all. I'm going to go back and see if there are any questions. So yeah, see here. I hope you enjoy this. Very bird's eye view, but I think quite useful, I hope. Questions? Any questions? Or you can perhaps share some ideas that you would like to use the API for. That would be awesome too. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, I mean, I think we are all about open source. Penpot is about open source. Penpot is about open standards. And of course, everything leads to interoperability. And interoperability requires a full-fledged API. So that was a natural step along the way. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Is token export integrated in Penpot UI? Token export. Well, yes, because you can actually you basically export the file. So if you go here and you download the SVG and the JSON, you're getting, I'm not going to do that, but you get a zip file where you have the SVG and the JSON. And if you go to those files, you see the tokens. Sorry, whoops. Yeah, going back. You can see, yeah, just remove it. So that can be done from the UI. But probably if you're going to automate that, you're going to use the API. But this is like kind of a super fast way to do that in a way. Like instead of downloading, unzipping, taking the JSON file, and performing all sorts of actions, you basically do that instantly through the API. But yeah, you can also do that. Export everything using open standards too from us. Let's take one final question, one or two. Can you explain a bit more detail how the Penpot design came to the dev site of EasyFest? The Penpot design. Okay, yeah. I think I know what you're asking. So I have this. So I think the question is about how the design came here. This is an Svelte. So again, I'm using a front-end framework, Svelte Kit in particular, and using an API to serve all the content. Okay. So here, basically, this is the repo for EasyFest, and I'm running the front end. The front end is using styles here. Let's see here. Here, the design system here. Okay, I have this and I have this. So Svelte is naturally looking for this when it's kind of building and rendering the front end for you. So the nice trick here is that what we're doing with Penpot export is connecting through the API using the get file, finding the assets here. Sorry, there's, yeah. Sorry, design here. Finding the assets using the variables that were used here. So we respect that. And outputting a different file for the typographies.json and the SCSS and the CSS. Basically, these changes. Okay, so it's rewriting is basically erasing, well, overwriting those files with the information that came from the API through Penpot export. So the content hasn't changed because, again, the content is being served through the API. Svelte has nothing to do with it. Svelte is just, the front end is just basically outputting. The agenda hasn't changed. Anything, everything, it remains the same. But if you change all the typographies and you change basically all the color styles, you get a different vibe. So the layout remains the same, but the style has changed. And that is what this was all about. So changing in your Git repo, or in this case, yeah, in my local environment, very important files where you have relevant variables that run the style. So that is why if I again do this and I just forget about all those changes, again I see the old variables applied and the design has changed. This is why we wanted to portray this live stream like a hands-on, like real world example, because this is a real world example. Of course it is. I mean, you could manually change these files yourself. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. But if you want to have someone very easily testing all this through Penpot, and I like this color, let's see how it looks, doing kind of a debugging for the design, just doing this on their own and then saying, I like how it looks, then automatically apply that. That is super cool. I hope I answered that question. Again, it is not mandatory to use Penpot export with its EasyFest. EasyFest has value on its own. Okay, perhaps one last question. If not, then I think we hit the 30-minute mark. I think this is great. I want to thank you everyone for joining the live stream, and also if you are watching after, please send any comments or go to the community space, community.penpot.app, and share wherever you want your ideas on how you plan to use the API. We will be listening and we will evolve the API based on your feedback. Thank you very much. See you soon.